Once again, I have not prepared very well, and I don't even know what my first line was going to be. It's like one of those things again where I'm like, I know what I'm talking about, but I don't, and that's the whole reason I'm talking about it, is because I don't really know my own thoughts on the matter. To an extent, I was going to start by saying I'm afraid of getting basic with age, but I don't think that's accurate. Because you could strip it down and be like, I'm just afraid of being basic, but I've never really been afraid of that. But I guess in the aspect, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what that opening sentence for me just started changing before I said it, and that's why I was sitting here in silence for like 30 seconds. But yeah, I feel okay. Number one, let's backtrack a second here. I don't really want to define basic, but I have for a very long time been very repellent of things that are basic or people. That's not my jam. I just haven't connected well with people who would fit under an umbrella of being a basic person. I haven't really been gravitating towards a lot of basic things. I'm sure there's some things depending on how you define basic, there's things that I'm sure that I do, that I participate in, that I buy, that I think, whatever, that I talk about, ways that I spend time, energy, money that will probably fit under that umbrella. I'm sure there's something, it's such a broad thing. To me, there's more than one type of basic person, but I mean, it's just something that I've never, once that kind of, I don't know, I all the things that make up a basic person are probably things that I've always just before having that label or the real oh, this is a kind of basic person or this is a kind of basic person and they're made up and comprised of all these things, before I really had that more definitive I guess structure of a person, there was a lot of things that fit to define that person that I never liked and that repelled me, that I just felt were not for me. I don't want to hang out with that person or do those things, whether because I felt like they were really trashy or very, another way I think of saying basic is common in some ways, because I feel 80%, my go-to number is 80%, and it fluctuates because sometimes I say higher depending on how much of a curmudgeon I'm being that day. But I feel 80% of the population is intolerable to me. I've said that a lot, and I don't know if that's really true anymore. But I just feel like there's a lot of people that fit into a box, and that's unfortunate. And that most people that fit into a box are people that I don't like, that I can't get along with or respect a lot of the time, which is, again, something that's changing with me, I think, in some ways, in a good way, because I just am more empathetic than I used to even be 3 years ago. For sure, there's been a shift there. I think, yeah, it's just in my late 20s and early 30s, there's been a big shift. A lot of it, maybe not only to do with age, but definitely with teaching and with going through the College of Education and being in that program of wanting to teach and then getting into the field and internship and then actually teaching and stuff like that. That definitely makes me more empathetic than I used to be, which is a good thing. Less judgmental, or less I don't know. I still have quick snap judgments, but they don't stick as long as they did before. And now I start thinking, oh, maybe, well, I don't know everything that's going on, whatever. So anyway, to me, basic, like I said, I don't want to go and just define it because it's very hard for me to define in some ways, but I'm when I say it, I know it. Or when I see it, I know it, and I know what I'm talking about, and most people know what I'm talking about too. But one of those things, like I was saying, I think is the word common. It's just too common. You aren't an individual enough, or unique enough, or you're content with being mediocre. That's a good way, I think, to define basic. There's a lot of other things that go with it. Like I said, there's certain traits, and they're not always I'm not talking about like white girl basic all the time. I'm not talking. It's not a gendered thing. It's not a race thing. It's a cultural thing. And I said there's more than one type of person. It's not just like the pumpkin spice latte Uggs wearing, like, you know, white girl thing, Becky. You know, like, it's just, that's not what I mean by basic. It's really like, you know, some people can define it by what people wear and like, oh, you're such a hipster or whatever. It's just way beyond that for me. Like I said, it's not a race-based thing. It's not a gendered thing, a sex-based thing. It's none of that. But yeah, people that are content with being mediocre, I guess. And to me, that's still like a hard line, I guess, that I'm thinking about, because I'm not content with feeling mediocre. I'm not content with just accepting my mediocreness or whatever. And like, there's different ways to see that. Like, I've talked about this before a couple times with nihilism. There's people that subscribe to the fact that nothing matters, we're all going to die, nothing we do matters, just have fun, just accept your life, enjoy your life, what I do doesn't matter, I'm not an important person. Like, I don't want to believe that, and a lot of that is tied to my anxiety about mortality. But either way, that's just not something I accept or subscribe to. But I think that there are people that are nihilistic that don't feel like they're significant, but they still feel like they are better than other people, and so they don't fit into the basicness that I'm talking about right now, which is like a super elitist, arrogant thing to say. I realize, like, if you feel like you're better than other people, then you're not basic, and I don't want to be basic, so I must feel like I'm better than other people, and I do, and that's either a problem or not a problem, I don't know. But this whole thing is about the fact that as I'm aging, I'm realizing that I would never want to be called basic. I don't think I ever will fully fit under that label, and not just because it's something that I see as a negative thing, but as I age and mature, and whether those two things are in sync, they're not necessarily, but like, I think that I am more accepting of a common or basic lifestyle, maybe, I don't know. There's things that are happening recently anyway that really brought this up in my mind. I don't know. It's like, I really don't think, like, it repels me so much because of everything that I attribute to basicness, that I would never want to say I'm embracing like a basic lifestyle. Like, I don't think so. I think that you could be a parent and not be basic. I think that there's certain like fields of work and career, and there's certain things like roles, like parents or whatever, that seem to attract certain types of people more than other types of people sometimes. And there's statistics that even back up, like, oh, people that are more formally educated in like post-secondary institutions in recent years, in the past like couple of decades, are having less kids, and they're attributing that to intelligence. And obviously, well, not obviously, but I'm telling you, I don't believe that enrollment in a post-secondary, or graduating even from a post-secondary institution, makes you more intelligent than someone who has never gone to a post-secondary institution, because that just doesn't make any sense to me that you would equate intelligence with that. There's different types of intelligences, and even then, like, there's a lot of reasons why some people just don't end up going to post-secondary institutions. But whatever, there's statistics linking, like, to put it in very plain terms, that some people, like, oh yeah, like, really smart people decided not to have kids anymore. Really smart people, statistically, are not having children because blah, 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 blah. And, yeah, anyway, that's just one example. But I don't feel like that's inherently, obviously, like, true of it just can't be true of every individual. So I don't remember what I was talking about, which is great. I feel that, like I said, I would never say I'm embracing like a basic lifestyle or something like that. I don't know how to. It's really hard for me to express. I had a moment where I was like, well, I guess there's certain things that I always thought of as something that's more of a basic person would do that or do this or live this way, that I feel more okay with living that way. And I don't know what it is. it's really hard without giving specific examples either. Because, like, I just, again, I don't really feel like I'm ever going to fit in that box, under that umbrella, be okay with that label. There's still, what is the line? I don't remember the name of the song right now, but it's off the Golden Age of Grotesque Marilyn Manson album, and there's a song that I don't remember the name of, and it says, "We don't rebel to sell, it just suits us well." And I've always liked that line because I feel like it does a tribute to me. Like, I like being a contrarian, but I don't think I go out of my way to be a contrarian just to be like a hipster, or just to be like, oh, that was your favorite thing? Well, that sucks because I liked the stuff from before they even whatever. Like, I like the demos. Like, I don't know. I think there are times where I can fall into that trap of, like, being a contrarian is fun, and, like, being, like, elitist and snooty about stuff. I try not to do that. That's not my nature. I think by nature I happen to be a contrarian about a lot of things, but then maybe that gets into, like, some weird cycle where I'm like, well, that's who I am, so then I feel like I'm always rebelling against whatever. I don't know. I mean, it's I know it's not who I am, and it's not 100% true, because there's plenty of things that everyone else likes. I'm like, oh yeah, I can get into this. Like, I don't, at first I didn't like Childish Gambino, and it had nothing to do with, I didn't even know he was popular, like, whatever. But there's examples of, like, musical artists that I like, oh yeah, like, I really like that. And it has nothing to do with the fact that everyone else, it's not like I base my likes on how many other people like it, because there's sometimes I'm like, yeah, a lot of basic people really enjoy this thing, and I'm enjoying it, and sometimes I maybe justify that, but I enjoy it for different reasons, or, like, I see the art in this that they don't see, and sometimes I'm like, hey, I just like it because I like it, and that's it, and I try not to have guilty pleasures about anything, whether any form of media or whatever. I try not to do that. I just try to be like, yeah, I like it. There's a purpose. There's always, like, a purpose and why I like something, and sometimes it's because, like, yeah, I need to listen to some Limp Bizkit. That's, like, my go-to example of, because I feel really trashy, or I want to feel trashy, or I don't want to feel much of anything right now. I just want, like, some beats. Like, I don't know. Like, there's a time and a place, I think, for a lot of things, and there's definitely a time and a place where I reach into, like, the trash bin, or, like, reach into just whatever, something that I don't know, it's not where I live. Like, I don't really feel like I live on, like, a basic plane. But I definitely dip into that sometimes. I know, there's obviously problems with everything I'm saying, because obviously it's very judgmental at the root of it, and being like, well, people are just people, man. Like, why are you... I'm putting them in a box, right? I'm putting people in a box, and I'm labeling people. I feel like a lot of people do it to themselves. I feel like a lot of people are very concerned with... I don't know, it's just sometimes when people don't have a sense, it's like not having your own sense of style. It's like not having your own sense of identity, of, like, knowing what you like and why you like it, and things like that. Like, I feel like, I don't know, I felt for a very long time, and maybe it's because I was raised as an only child for a long time, and didn't have a lot of direct influences from, like, no siblings or cousins, or even family, really. Like, I don't feel like, I mean... with my mom in the home, like, there wasn't any musical, like, influence. It was just, like, pop radio was on sometimes, and that was it. And I don't really feel like I got influenced that way, or with books or movies or media. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I didn't really have a lot of influence, so I was left to kind of slowly. One thing is I was just really independent early on, and then slowly, kind of throughout high school, I had some, like, influences here and there, but it was at a point where, I don't know how to explain it. I wasn't already filled with, like, influences from a whole bunch of other people in a way that I recognized as, like, oh yeah, like, my mom really likes classic rock, and, like, I got into it, and it's really cool. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm just saying that I really felt more of, like I hadn't, I don't know, like, part of it, what I had defined for myself was better defined by myself, and was more of a choice, and then things that weren't defined yet, like, there was room to be influenced more than maybe other people who had already kind of had certain influences and had certain things that, like, certain styles and things like that, and I was really still trying to figure myself out, but I think it was just way more independent. I don't know if that makes any sense. But I don't know, I feel like I have a distinct, like, style about me, not just with, like, what I wear or whatever, because sometimes it's just a t-shirt and jeans and that's it, but I mean, just, I don't feel like I fit into a box. Obviously, I like the fact that I don't feel like I fit into a box. if there's any box or label that I fit into or under, it's like an outcast, or it's like someone who, like, the other. I'm perfectly fine fitting under that label because it's a very diverse and broad section of humanity, the other. It does not look like just one person. Whereas, if someone said, like, someone's a hipster, then I have, like, a picture in my mind, and I also think, like, okay, well, that probably means that they act like this, that they would probably like these things, that this is how they spend their time and energy, maybe even, like, their career choices. Like, again, it's not a good thing that we and or I may think like that, but it's a cultural thing that just seems to happen, and I accept that. And I don't know. Like I said, obviously I don't want to be boxed in by anything. I don't feel like I am, but for some reason I'm having to come to terms with the fact that I am more okay with common or, like, expectations of certain things as I'm maturing that would be... See, that's the thing, and I really don't think they're mediocre, and I'm railing against that. It's not about... Because I said before, like, one way I can define basic is by saying that you're content with being mediocre, and I'm still not. But if I'm allowed... I think... Here's the thing that I haven't talked about this really in depth yet, and I will at some point, about how ignorance is bliss, and how sometimes I wish that I didn't have the brain that I did, that I didn't, like, I overanalyze everything, and it's part of my anxiety as well, and why I have anxiety, and that my mind works a certain way, and that if I didn't foresee all these things, or have a certain amount of cognitive ability, and if I had less cognitive ability, maybe I could fit into this category of being ignorant and being happier. And like I said, I don't want to get into that huge discussion right now, but there's a part of me that it's not necessarily making a choice, but it's coming to terms with the fact that I'm leaning more towards being happy, which is just a weird thing of being like, maybe this thing will make me happy. Maybe this thing that makes everyone else happy, that everyone just kind of goes along with, will be something that makes me happy too. Maybe, like, I'll just be a happier person if I do these things, or if I don't do these things, or if I don't embrace this part of me that likes to be super different and tortured and whatever, like this artist part, right? And I mean, I'm still always going to be who I'm going to be, but I mean, there's obviously an evolution that happens with people. I mean, there should be, because there should be growth. And it's a weird thing for me to look at this as growth, because to me, for so long, it's been like the opposite of growth. Because if it's like, oh, you know what, maybe, as an example, it's like, oh, maybe, like, I'll settle down with a family or something someday, which is something I've never, like, I just haven't thought about it as an adult ever, of being like, that's a thing that's going to happen. I'm going to have kids or something. That's not something I've ever thought about. And recently, it's been on my mind a little bit. And that has brought, like, and this isn't the first time that I've thought about this whole thing about, like, I feel like I'm being more basic with age. And maybe it's just because, like, a comment, like, a friend or someone had made, or they're, like, surprised that I would, like, that they're surprised maybe in my choice of partner sometimes, or that I like somebody that is a certain way. Like, that's happened a couple times that I'm like, I don't know. There's just things that are changing, and I'm just like, yeah, again, like, I don't know what to call it, because to me it's almost like not growth, because for so long I felt like these things were negative things or bad things or things I didn't want, and I'm changing as a person, whether we want to call that growth or not, or I'm open to other things, and I'm thinking about just long-term life in a way that I haven't in a long time, which is really scary, because when I'm thinking about long-term life, I'm also thinking about death, and like, oh, what's my life going to be like for the next 15 years? Like, I don't know. I've had, like, a long-term plan of what I want to do. It's like, yeah, I'm going to have a partner, and I'm going to teach, and I'm going to do art, and then at some point I'm going to not work anymore and just do art all the time, and just, like, write and read and be a old man. But throwing other stuff in there, like I said, this introduction of the idea of having children in my life is like, it's like throwing this whole wrench into everything that I've thought of before, and it's disrupting it. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's disrupting everything that I've been thinking and feeling for years and years and years, and that's where I'm just, like, coming to this. I don't know. It's reintroducing this topic to me, because I've thought about it a little bit before when people have made comments, or I've just thought about something about how, like, I'm attracted to something or someone or whatever, and people have questioned that because I've been so adamant about like very much disliking the basic, I guess. Anyway, I don't know. This was like a slow rambling more than I think anything else I've done. Yeah, I don't know. Those are just my thoughts on that right now because I don't know. I'm going through it in a way, and I'm just like, this leads to whole other conversations, like I said, that I'm not going to get into right now. But part of it is about just like, what is going to be happiness for me? Like I haven't thought about that for a long time. Like, wait a second, these like all these other things that I thought about. Like, I'm just going to have a partner. I'm going to teach. I'm going to like do art stuff, whatever. That's going to be my life. It's going to be wonderful. There's a certain amount of freedom and stuff in that. And then introducing the thought of kids completely disrupted that. Like I said, not in a bad way, but opening myself up to that possibility is super super scary, and also makes me feel like, what is this? Like what does that mean? Like, how does that change me as a person? How much does it change? Like, oh man, I feel like the questions are too much, and now I can't even get into it. Again, that just reintroduced this topic to me that I thought about before and wasn't ever worthy of talking about, and then for some reason now it is. Of just like, obviously I'm gonna stop. Like at some point, if I slip into, I don't know how to explain it. Again, this whole thing of basicness and for a long time, my negative feelings towards the people that fit into that box or under that label, if I feel like being happy fits, like, I've always wanted to be happy. It's not like I didn't want to be happy, but I have also said, which again, I don't want to get into this too much because I want to save this for another conversation, that I'd rather be smart and miserable than be stupid and happy. And I don't think it's mutually exclusive. Like, I don't think that I have to be, like, I can't be happy and be smart, or that stupid people, like, can't be, or that happy people can't be smart, or whatever. Like, I don't think everyone that's happy is stupid, obviously. But, like, there is, like, some connection between ignorance and bliss, and then the amount of knowledge that someone might have in the way they see the world and see certain things. And there's research on that too. Like certain types of intelligence are more depressed people because they can't ignore certain things that other people can, because they don't even see it or realize that it's a thing, and therefore they don't even have to consider it into their worldview or whatever. Whereas, like, I see so many things that aren't even there, plus all these other things that are realities, or what I think are realities, or possible realities, and then I get anxious about them, and or I wouldn't say depressed, but I get upset by them. Anyway, so like I said, the happiness thing is like, it's not, I don't know, it's like weird to think of it as like as like putting myself into a box and being okay with it and being more restricted and being less free and being like playing a role, I guess. I've never wanted to play a specific role. To me, any role or character, label, whatever you could give me, like, as if I said the other or the artist, to me they're the same thing. What I like about those roles or titles or labels is the fact that they are so diverse and they don't mean just one thing, but to me they represent, creativity, passion, freedom. They represent a lot of freedom to me, because I'm like, well, the artist is free. The artist does this, does that, does whatever they want. And I've always, I think, seen a family unit or a children or whatever as not having that freedom, as having this amount of responsibility, and that's not the same as being the artist, because the artist shouldn't have any responsibility to anyone but themselves. Obviously, there's amazing artists that have families and children and stuff. This is going off the rails. I don't know if it's a good thing, but these are the thoughts I've had recently. And again, it's like coming. I still don't know what I'm going to title this video and or podcast. I shouldn't say and this podcast. Something about coming to terms with being basic. I don't know. I really don't feel like I fit into that box yet, and I hope I never do. But there's something that, like, that's again partly with maturity and age, and something that I'm like, that I'm appreciating certain people's lifestyles more. But the thing is that I feel like I have to make a choice to be a certain way sometimes, whereas other people don't have a choice. And again, this is going to go into this other conversation of like, ignorance is bliss. Anyway, yeah, I feel like that's a rambling where I didn't really resolve anything, and sometimes I don't, and that's just what happens. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna return to this topic at some point, probably. Anyway, see you on another time.